mandatory masking in classes. And Kansas lawmakers threaten to sue the governor over the way she spent COVID-19 relief money. Also, the latest on thousands trying to escape from the now Taliban-controlled country of Afghanistan.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Area physicians say local school districts aren't doing enough to protect children from COVID-19 when classes are back in session. This is the KOAM News at Noon. I'm Chris Warner. The healthcare leaders, physicians sent an open letter to 12 districts in southwest Missouri and southeast Kansas. The letter commended the effort by districts last year during the start of the pandemic, but says schools should mandate universal masking and change quarantine policies this school year to protect students from the COVID-19 variant. More than 100 doctors from Freeman, Mercy, and family practices signed the letter, all urging school boards to change their current mask-wearing policies. The letter says, without universal masking, school outbreaks are inevitable due to COVID-19. Both the staff and students will suffer if this occurs, and parents will have an added burden of teaching their kids in a virtual environment. Letter also states this and points out specifically the Joplin School District, saying, quote, current CDC guidelines state that if someone is in direct contact less than 6 feet or more than 15 minutes and are unvaccinated, they should quarantine at home and may be released with a negative COVID test on day 7. This is contrary to the guidelines established by the Joplin School District, which allow the exposed student to return to school wearing a mask if they exhibit no symptoms or within 5 days later with a negative test without wearing a mask. We've spent this morning asking districts and superintendents about the physician's standpoint on universal masking.
In speaking to the board president, we have our policy that the board has approved, and we will move forward with that at the present time. We made a statement in the policy that we would evaluate on a timely basis, as frequently as weekly if we need to.
In Carl Junction, the school spokesperson says the letter was emailed to her and not Superintendent Phil Cook. She went on to say Dr. Cook, quote, did not appreciate the way it was handled, end quote. This morning, I spoke with Dr. Wilderbing with Freeman Health System. We're going to have more reaction from school districts on the KOAM News at 5 and 6, and also update our new Instapoll. And today's question, should schools implement a universal masking policy? You can participate in the poll at KOAMnewsnow.com/vote or through the KOAM News Now mobile app. Results are updated live, and we'll check in on them here in just a bit. And as the school year starts, KOAM is listening to your questions and getting answers from local education and health experts. You can submit questions on our website, as we mentioned, KOAMnewsnow.com. While you're there, you can check out the previous stories we've covered concerning getting back to school safely. And again, it's our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, Missouri ranks 4th in the nation in COVID-19 deaths per capita. That's according to recent data from the CDC. The state health department says of 124 deaths reported on Tuesday, 86 were discovered in the department's weekly examination of death certificates from across the state. One of those deaths was in June, 52 in July, and 33 earlier this month. But 38 of the deaths were new, an unusually high one-day total. And 2 more people in Joplin have died from COVID-19. The Joplin Health Department reports 2 men, ages 60 and 87, died from the virus. This brings the city's total to 155. And while the daily average of COVID cases may be down in the Joplin area, regional cases are still impacting Joplin hospitals, which in turn has led to an increase in ER wait times. Officials with Mercy Joplin say average ER wait times have nearly tripled in the last 6 months. To help offset that increase, the ER has made a few changes to procedures like drawing labs while patients are still in the triage area waiting for a room. Officials say the most important thing to remember is despite the wait, they're still here to help.
I know people are frustrated. It is not our desire to make anyone wait. They're not waiting because we're not working hard or we don't want to see them. And the reality is, if you feel you have a need to come to the emergency room, we want you here. We want to be able to evaluate you and make sure that you're safe to go home if you can, or get you the treatment that you need.
Officials say increases in wait times to be admitted to the hospital from the ER have also happened. Times to get from the ER to a hospital room can be upwards of 4 hours or more. Top Republican legislators in Kansas accused Democratic Governor Laura Kelly's administration of illegally spending at least $86 million in federal COVID-19 relief funds by not getting their approval first. Governor Kelly's office didn't respond to the letter from Senate President Ty Masterson, House Speaker Ron Reichman Jr., and the House and Senate Budget Committee chairs. In the letter, the lawmakers threatened to explore filing a lawsuit if the governor does not change course. The Republicans say a budget measure requires legislative leaders' consent for any spending of relief dollars starting July 1st. Kelly's office contends agencies already have the authority to spend relief funds. Few showers out there right now, but nothing too crazy. I see it's getting a little bit darker off to the side.
Tell you what we can do, Chris. We all know that side is 7th and Rangeline, but look at what happens if we go toward the old Galena area.
There's an area of some rain over there, looks like.
Coming down pretty good right now. There we are from Joplin. Let's go ahead and jump to the Skywatch Storm Tracker. We'll kind of zoom in here on exactly what we were looking at. And as we move in here, it gets a little bit hectic, especially right on the edge of Labette and Cherokee County. And then as we move from that line just on the east side of Chetopa with some very heavy rain, right there, just around the Carl Junction area, that's that site that we were seeing where that rain's coming down very, very good. As you move toward Joplin, because they actually have an outdoor activity today at Missouri Southern, things should hold off hopefully for the next 50 minutes and be okay. But then you just get on the other side of that and move down toward Duquesne and right back at it. Now, when we talk about our lightning strikes, new. We've been able to stay out of the fray of that, but that will be our theme for today as the Gulf moisture has really set in. Our temperatures already working up into the low to mid 80s, top out around 86 degrees, but coming up here in just a little bit, Chris, let's not only break down our afternoon rain chances, but even though we're going to get a break later tonight, we're going to revamp. Tomorrow's going to be even more widespread, and the heat wave is just about to get on us.
That's usually how it goes around here, isn't it? We get a nice little break and then just
a little break,
just like that.
But that was it.
Michael, thank you so much. Awaiting some afternoon rain to pop up. We just talked about all that. He took a look at this forecast for us. However, the death toll from the earthquake in Haiti closes in on 2,000. New images of the scale of destruction on the island after the twin disasters of an earthquake and tropical depression. Vladimir Duthries reports from hard-hit and hard-to-reach areas.
Our flight into the quake zone could not prepare us for the destruction down below. Once we arrived in Lekai, the devastation surrounded us, homes and businesses unrecognizable to those who call this city home.
I'm standing atop what used to be a 4-story hotel. On Saturday, when the earthquake struck, multiple people were crushed and killed, including a former Haitian senator. And that's the thing about earthquakes. They don't discriminate.
About 10 miles from Lekai sits the small village of Maniche, where the damage was even more profound, made even worse by the battering rain from Tropical Depression Grace. Driving through the town, we saw hundreds of villagers roaming outside without a place to call home.
We showed you how victims of the earthquake are being ferried to hospitals in Port-au-Prince. Here's why. This is what's left of the only hospital in Maniche.
The town's mayor, David Bouina, says about 98% of Maniche was destroyed.
They need water and they need food.
Et nous besoin également assistance sanitaire.
And they need assistance with the sanitary conditions. This is exactly what leads to disease.
We spoke to Mireille, whose sister died in the quake. She says many villagers have simply lost hope.
Mireille says that she's seen that the focus has been on the bigger cities in Haiti that were affected by the earthquake. But here in Maniche, no one has paid a lot of attention to them. They feel left behind. They feel as if no one is coming for them. Tropical Depression Grace caused mudslides and some rivers to swell. That's cut off some of the most remote villages from getting any aid at all, and it's unclear how and when they could receive it. Vladimir Dutier, CBS News, Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 10 minutes of the KOAM News at Noon. Up next.
President Biden is briefed by military leaders racing to evacuate U.S. citizens from Kabul. I'm Natalie Brand with the chaos for Afghan citizens trying to get out.
And later, we're making good old tuna noodle casserole in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Former Afghan President Ashraf Ghani and his family, who fled Afghanistan prior to the fall of Kabul, have now turned up in the United Arab Emirates. This comes as thousands of his countrymen and U.S. citizens are also trying to evacuate the country. Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
The U.S. is rushing to increase the number of people it can evacuate from Afghanistan ahead of the August 31st withdrawal deadline.
We predict that our best effort could look like 5,000 to 9,000 passengers departing per day.
But there are reports of chaos outside the Kabul airport, with a NATO official telling Reuters there was a stampede at one of the gates, and the Taliban is reportedly blocking Afghan citizens from leaving.
We have received reports of people being turned away or pushed back or even beaten. We are taking that up in a channel with the Taliban to try to resolve those issues.
In the eastern city of Jalalabad, a health official says at least one person is dead after Taliban soldiers fired into a crowd protesting against the new government. National intelligence analysts say there is also concern about heightened terrorist threats, especially around the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Anybody in the intelligence business right now here in the United States who doesn't understand we're in a heightened threat position isn't reading the analysis.
The Taliban held its first press conference Tuesday, claiming it will respect women's rights. The U.S. joined 46 other countries in a statement saying, "We are deeply worried about Afghan women and girls, their rights to education, work, and freedom of movement."
We have to see what they do. We hear what they're saying, but it is their actions that really will define how they address these issues moving forward.
The UN says it will remain on the ground in Afghanistan to support programs for women and girls. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
CBS News has confirmed the U.S. is freezing assets that the Afghan government held in U.S. banks so that the Taliban does not have access to that money. Well, still to come on the KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
Today's casserole is one you either love or you might not be a big fan of. But with our creamy twist, we might just win you over.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Tried to hold that afternoon rain off as long as possible, but now that we're officially past the noon hour, time to rock and roll. Skywatch Storm Tracker with a live look at what we've got going on currently with some very heavy rain right now. We'll work from west to east here, and we'll start in Cherokee County, just on the west side of Columbus, and that one making its way on the east side of Chautauqua. So those are moving toward the Joplin area. Then as we transition into Carl Junction, we'll actually give you a live look of what that rain looks like right now. We get a little break right there in Joplin, right along 7th and Range Line, but then we're right back at it on the backside of it as you head toward Webb City and then down to Dunaweg. Now, we were talking about that rain coming down very hard in Carl Junction. Number one, don't have to worry about any lightning. It's not moving very fast though, but here's what it looks like. If you were up on a tower in 7th and Range Line and you said, what is that? Well, that is that rain indeed in Carl Junction that's coming down right now. But as you can tell, the intersection here in Joplin does remain dry as we sit at 86 degrees. That's probably about where we'll top out. Not a whole lot of difference the rest of the afternoon. And that humidity finally fell below 60%, considering we were up around 95% earlier this morning. Whole bunch of low to mid 80s, so it is pretty comfortable outside as the Gulf humidity continues to push its way up through Texas and straight toward us. As far as what we're looking at nationally, we're just about done with Fred. He's just now hanging on, but still torrential rainfall through the northeast section of the United States with flash flood watches. Like I said, our temperature's really not going to budge too much today. Let's talk about tonight and tomorrow. As the rain continues to move in from the south, sunset break, overnight good, and now look at Thursday. we're going to have way more scattered variety geographically than what we've had past couple of days, and that's why that's up to 60%. And then get ready for a hot weekend. We got 90s coming at us Saturday and Sunday, mid-90s by next week.
Not too shabby, I suppose. I mean, it's still August, we're still in summer, and we've got a little bit of time before
I got
fall
40
gets
minutes
here.
till this community fair's over at Southern. That's what I'm looking at.
I think they'll make it. Michael, thank you so much. And we're going to take this time now to honor one of our many four-state heroes. Ermal Brandon served as a private first class in the United States Army. He fought in Europe from 1944 to 45, where he served with actor Audie Murphy and was portrayed by Paul Drake in the Audie Murphy movie To Hell and Back. A native of Joplin, we salute you, Ermal Brandon, our four-state hero. Were you feeling nostalgic? Well, Howard's going to show us a fresh take on a classic comfort food today in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
When it comes to tuna noodle casserole, you either love it or you don't. Since I grew up on it, I think of it as a comfort food, right alongside meatloaf, pot roast, and spaghetti. When it first became popular in the 1950s, it was known as the dish that anyone with a can opener could make. Today, however, there are many variations that turn this basic casserole into something really special, like the easy one we're making today. We start by cooking some egg noodles according to the package instructions and draining them really well. Meanwhile, we combine some mushroom soup with some milk. Once that's mixed, we add some canned tuna, frozen peas, and a little salt and pepper. Then we add our noodles and give it a good stir. For extra richness, we add in some Swiss cheese and melted butter. Just before we pop it in the oven, we top it with some crispy, crunchy fried onions. Once it's bubbling hot, get ready to experience lots of comforting goodness. If you're still on the fence about whether you should make this or not, I say you give it a try. This version may just win you over. To get the recipe for our good old tuna noodle casserole, check out our website. I'm Howard of the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a cozy retro way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
I'm not a big fan of tuna, but he makes it look pretty darn good. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Now here's a look at four-state market prices.
Bouts of heavy rain this afternoon, especially through southwest Missouri, before we clear off by sunset. More widespread rain beginning tomorrow morning, and a heat wave that takes us into the 90s by the weekend. Chris and Dow.
Michael, thank you. Today's KOAM News Now Instapoll question: should schools implement a universal masking policy? You can participate in the poll at KOAMnewsnow.com/vote or through our app. Of course, these results are updated live. We'll check in on updated results at 10, but right now 59% of you say yes. 41% say no, and again, we'll have updated results throughout the evening. And speaking of the evening, Dow Quick joins us.
Yeah, tonight at 5, parents and advocates urge TikTok to implement parental monitoring features after a number of children die while attempting a dangerous online challenge. Plus, reaction from school districts on the open letter from doctors imploring them to do more to protect students from COVID-19. And the rain held off long enough for Missouri Southern to welcome students to its Community Day. Hope you'll join us for those stories. A whole lot more, of course. It's all coming up today on KOAM News at 5.
All right, Dow, Michael, thank you so much. That is our time for now. We'll see you at 5. Have a great afternoon.